All right, we're live once again after a week of hiatus. I got a hate speech strike on my account and couldn't upload for a week. So if you all were missing me at all, I know a few of you might have been, but a few of you are probably like, "Good, that Mr. Mission Control guy is gone." But no, I haven't been anywhere. Um, Man, what the things that have happened in the past week, man. I tell you what, I I I finally got the medication that I've been needing for years, and I finally got some Vyvanse, and boy, I tell you what, it really helps. It's really helping me out, and so yeah, drama. Thomas Sheridan had a video this morning uh, talking about the drama that's going on in the United States, and it's spreading to around the world. So boy, the bikers are out. Bikers are out in force this morning. It's a beautiful day here in the Ozarks. You know, it's wonderful. On anticipating that tropical depression that's coming up here. But what I want to talk about isn't about the protests or the riots. I don't want to talk about uh, Black Lives Matter or Antifa or white privilege. All that stuff. All that stuff doesn't matter. Uh, some things we need to get straight. Um, I've been shown what's going to happen back in 1994 when I worked on the astral plane with Council of Dragons. Now, as crazy as that might sound to some of you people that aren't familiar with magic and the occult, and things like out of body experiences and astral travel or dream working or something or any of that stuff. But I've seen what's going to happen from 2020 on to 2048, and a, a lot of it's not good this year. This year is a lot of not good stuff happening, and then some good things happen, and but we're fighting. We're going to be fighting the environment. We're going to be fighting uh, having to be put back into the the first century because of solar flares and our electrical grids not going to handle it. Uh, polar flip is inevitable within the next 30 years, or the polar wander will go back to where it was, or find a position of normalcy. Right now we have two North Poles, and the southern pole is headed towards the Indian Ocean. One North Pole is headed towards Siberia, and the other North Pole is in mid-Canada. And then we have the South Atlantic anomaly that's splitting off to the west, uh, and they don't know what to think about that. So, and that's letting in cosmic rays and all kinds of stuff that's heating the atmosphere and causing precipitation everywhere, and dismantling the jet streams, um, create havoc in the jet streams. So they're trying to fight this with geoengineering, chemtrails and HARP and 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 CERN, trying to correct the geomagnetic field with CERN and stuff like that. And so the question arises: can we really have an effect? Can we postpone, this catastrophe cycle that we've found out that we're in? The Earth goes through every, about every 25,000 to 250,000 years. So, and there's smaller catastrophe cycles along with that, you know. So if you don't pay attention to suspicious observers, you need to head on over to Suspicious Observers by Ben Davidson. He's an excellent scientist. And watch his videos on the catastrophe cycle, the solar catastrophe cycle. The food riots. This is what I want to talk about, folks. I mean, if you guys think that this whole virtue signaling and taking a knee and going against the established the government that's in power is going against the police, going against law enforcement. Yeah, because that's what this is really about. All these protests should really be about police brutality, and we definitely need more training for our law enforcement officials. You know, they definitely should be ex-military. And they definitely should have plenty of years of schooling behind them and plenty of years of training before they are set out on the streets with a firearm or other deadly weapons and with authority to use deadly force on somebody with handcuffs on. You know, that there are a few bad apples out there, you know, and you're never going to get around bad apples. You just never will without the proper psychological testing and critical situation tests that have to be put on people that go into the military and special forces and special operations. You know, I grew up in a military family. None of my family members were in special operations sectors of the military, but they did go through all the training that was necessary for them to do their job. And I tell you what, there's some impeccable people, some outstanding, my family members, my father and my uncle and even my nephew and my grandpa that dropped bombs in World War II. He'd climb out on the wire and pick dud bombs off the bomb wire. That's how brave my grandpa was. But and he's seen lots of airplanes go down around him. Barely made it back a couple times himself. But these people that serve in the military, man, I tell you what, there's something else that we need to take pride in them, and we need to help the homeless military out and the homeless mental health cases. I got a couple friends that have mental health issues and they're homeless and they need help getting government assistance, but without a stable place to reside, they're never going to get, you know, without a mailing address and a phone number, they're never going to get the assistance they need. So what we need is diversionary programs. We need education. We need community organizers that are actually doing good work and aren't stealing from the trough. You know. So this whole thing about the protest, they're protesting for the wrong reasons. You know, because wait until the food riots start, guys. Wait until the food riots start, because the whole production line shut down and stuff really hadn't hit us yet. Because in the freezers, you don't realize this, but the turkeys and the hams you guys eat on the holidays have been in those freezers for up to 3 years. So some of those turkeys and hams have been in there for 3 years, almost 3 years. They put them out after 2.5 years. They put them on the shelf out of the freezers. And that's how much stockpile of stuff we get. Man, I tell you, but the production line of fresh produce is always in effect. But I'll tell you what, when they run out, they've got freezers full of places that are stockpiled with meat. Let me light my cigarette. But those production lines got shut down, and you know, and Trump has got a good job recovery going on. There's jobs coming back to America that with his tax plans he put into effect. He cut taxes and did a lot of things to allow companies and corporations to move back into America from places like China and Ireland and and Mexico, and you know, so those are all on the building block stages of reestablishing themselves during this whole lockdown and getting back in order, you know, opening back up. If you look at the jobs numbers, they're pretty mind-boggling. I mean, you would think, you know, with the whole lockdown, everybody losing their jobs, that there was actually nobody getting jobs, but actually people are getting jobs. It's just some people are losing their jobs, and you know, other people are gaining them in different sectors. But man, I tell you what, it's been a hell of a week, guys. With all the news, all the propaganda that the mainstream media has put out there, all this kneeling bullshit, and I'm sorry, and I'll treat melanin skinned people better than I will white people, Caucasian people, you know, and all this white privilege stuff that's going on. You know, I don't know what to say about it. It's all an attempt by the deep state to oust Trump, you know, and Trump's not buying it. You know, he's threatened to enact the Stafford Act and call out the military. And what the Stafford Act is emergency disaster relief. And so I still think that could happen on the 8th or the 9th. The 8th is a real big day. So I've been studying some gematria and watching Hubbard's channel. And so I put together some numbers of he was covering the Floyd and the COVID situation, and added up all the numbers he covered in his video, and it came to 790. I ran that through the calculator, and it came up with things like the second coming of Christ, and Obama dead by October, and Demon Army, and all sorts of weird things, and some names and stuff that have yet to be a light shed on them, you know. But he did an interview. Hubbard did an interview last night on what was it? GSM, and it was a great interview, man. And then he revealed lots of things about the numbers and gematria that have been going on here lately with the COVID and Kobe Bryant and all sorts of things that just you know, are just mind-boggling how these numbers and words are synonymous with each other in these time frames and these calendar dates. You know, it points to that, like Thomas Sheridan said towards the end of his video this morning. It points to a greater power that has a functionality to it. It has been planned for a long time for us. It's what they call, you know, the Matrix. You know, this is what they call the Matrix, and the holographic Matrix reality that we live in. It can all be It can all be predicted and looked back on, and all points connected to different things. You know, it's really amazing. So if you haven't studied gematria or numerology, forgot his first name, but Hubbard, I'll leave a link to the interview with him, and then I'll leave a link to his channel, the gematria he covers, and what else? What else links? I'll leave Thomas Sheridan's drama speech this morning. It went on for about 42 minutes, and I will leave a link to my Bitchute video where I got a strike for hate speech here on YouTube, so you can go to Bitchute and check that video out and determine for yourself whether I was, because it's still up on Bitchute under my Zorstar channel. So apparently it wasn't hate speech, or they would have taken it down, you know what I mean? But, gosh, man. So I'm able to get my thoughts out a little bit better on this 5 ants, you know. It's an amphetamine, but, you know, I've got ADHD real bad, and I've got the beginnings of Parkinson's, of what I believe. If you watch my videos, my head bobs around a lot. And when I talk to people and I'm in one standing position, I tend to shift my weight back and forth from one foot to another. And my mom drives my mom fucking batshit crazy. But I've got a little bit more control over myself. Past 24 hours have been really, I feel really good, man. I feel really good. We're releasing dopamine in my brain that I need. And I feel really good. I'm real positive about moving forward with everything. Got some job interviews next week. I feel real positive about. And despite all the negative stuff that's going on around, you know, and speaking of negative, we've moved some warships in between Taiwan and China, or one warship in particular, and and then was it the night before last? Nellis Air Force Base had a major training mission. My friend Julia, that lives in Las Vegas, got on video. She said there was a massive number of jets taken off. I don't know exactly when they returned or where they went, but Nellis Air Force Base is a training base. So they're training for something. They're getting ready for something, and I believe it's a skirmish with China to get them out of the South China Sea, to get them out of India's business, because India wants our help with China. China's incursioning on their northern borders and doing all kinds of crazy things. Monograph had a show last night that I was the last caller on. I was the last caller on the show. And he said he was going to publish it, but he turned around and made it private, so nobody gets to listen to that. But basically I was going over, you know, the grand solar minimum, and that we're going into a solar maximum for 11 years, and then another minimum for 11 years, and how the solar cycle, but on the grander solar cycle scale, we're going into a grand solar minimum, which means not as much activity going on in the solar maximum, you know, and then the more coronal holes in the solar minimum. So which depletes our magnetosphere, you know. Our magnetosphere is down 25-30%, down to 25 or 30% from 130 years ago. And it's letting in cosmic rays. It's letting in DNA upgrades. Oh, I was watching Leak Project, and I'll link that video too. Leak Project had a good interview about. He was talking about extraterrestrials and stuff. I think, but he was mentioning the COVID, the virus could have been engineered in outer space and brought back here, or could have came from outer space, and could be affecting the consciousness, like those, like that fungus that attaches itself to ants in South America and takes over their brain and controls them. And anyway, what if bacteria is, and like it's proven that schizophrenics have a different kind of bacteria in their gut than regular people that don't hear voices. And so is the bacteria talking to you? So is this virus, this COVID-19 virus, is it causing a dissidence? Is it causing an unrest in people? Especially in the asymptomatic people. So we're going to see a spike in the COVID hospitalizations in the next 2 weeks, unless everybody getting out in the sun and fresh air has destroyed the virus, which I doubt, because it's a very fast moving virus. And so in these population centers, in about how long the protests and the riots been going on for? About 7 days. So about another 7 more days, we'll start seeing people getting sick, because there's a 14 to 24 day incubation period. So in about 2 more weeks, we'll start seeing the hospitals filling up again, and then they'll probably enact the Stafford Act, which is Trump will enact the Stafford Act, which is disaster relief for the destruction of the city's recovery act. And that'll deploy FEMA, the National Guard, and all sorts of other resources to what Monograph says is by this time next year, they'll have the roll up your sleever, the roll up your sleever, and they'll want to inject everybody and make it mandatory. And what'll be in there is nanotechnology, and all the tracking and everything like that will be made much easier for them, because you'll have nanotechnology in your bloodstream that reproduces and specifically for the means of tracking and getting your biorhythms, what do you call it? Anyway, monitor your heartbeat and where you go and things you say, anything like that. So this whole social crediting system that China has come up with is going to be tried to be implemented, and this gets back to how they're going to roll out this taking out the police station in Minneapolis. They're talking about disbanding the police department in Minneapolis, and I expect if they do that, then the whole thing will go national. Other places will want to do that. But what that does is that will privatize security forces. That will privatize the police. I mean, they will be liable for what they do, like choking out people and hurting people. They will be liable because there will be a corporation. But also, there will be more police on the street if you privatize the police. And they would have to run it like a cable companies and communications companies run things, with certain areas pay a certain rate for a certain service. For a certain speed of internet, you can't get a higher speed of internet in some places in the United States simply because of the neighborhood you live in. You move 5 miles away, you can get a higher rate of speed, different cable line or fiber optics or whatever, and you pay the difference, you know. So the privatization of police is what they're wanting uh, to supplant the liability uh, uh, free for all that the police have now. They can do whatever they want to and get away with it. You know, they want to end that, but that will privatize the police. If you take the police departments away, defund the police departments from taxpayer dollars, you'll have to be privatized, and individual neighborhoods or areas of the city or the cities will have to fund their own police departments, or corporations will have to fund their own real estate agencies will have to fund their own police and security forces. Like, I live here in Northwest Arkansas where Walmart is. There won't be a problem with policing this place because Walmart security will handle it. They'll just hire a big security force and they'll take over, you know. But that leaves traffic violations and traffic police. Where are the traffic police going to go? And how are you going to get funding for all this extra EMTs and community organizers that are going to go into the slums and stuff and ask if the local drug dealer needs medical assistance or food and help, you know, to help him not depend on selling drugs to kids so much, you know. Get them on the government assistance, which most of them are on government assistance to begin with. And they take a portion of that government assistance and put into their drugs and make profit off of the excess, you know. It's real easy to do that. And so then you got the cartels and everything, you know, moving in. So privatizing the police force would probably be a bad move. I mean, it would look good to begin with, but you would be like if you went a mile down the street, you would be on a different corporation's turf, or a different county's turf, or different city's turf, and their laws would be totally different than a mile where you came from. And there are going to be a lot of people getting arrested, you know, or fined. They're based it on a fine system. Well, the fines for a regular traffic violation in that sense would probably be 3 or 4 times higher than what you'd be paying right now with taxpayers paying for the police and the courts being county and state run and city run. That it would be the private sector running to be corporations, and they would charge whatever they wanted to from you, you know, for violating their law in their neck of the woods, you know. So this whole thing with Minneapolis defunding their police department and getting rid of police brutality that way would only make it a lot worse, I believe, because businesses would want to protect themselves, and you'd have all these individual security officers running around getting their nose. Well, they would keep their nose mainly out of everybody's business, but if you got into their business, you're in trouble. They're going to want to charge you, you know, because that's how they get paid. And right now we're only dealing with a few bad apples. For the most part, most police officers are good people and law-abiding people. They might be assholes for enforcing the law, but for the most part, police officers and especially emergency service workers are really good people. Firemen are really excellent people. I know a whole lot of them. And I've been treated maliciously by the police before. And there are a few bad apples out there, But that can be addressed by psychological testing, and a lot more training needs to go into hiring these police officers than just 4 years of law school and gun range training, and if you can swing a baton or not. You know. So, but what everybody needs to be concerned about is the solar cycle, the CMEs coming off the sun. You need to watch that, and you can watch that on Helio Viewer, or pay attention to Suspicious Observers and a channel called Smash-O-Mash, Daniel on Smash-O-Mash channel. He does the space weather every morning, and then shortly after, Suspicious Observers comes on at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. But you need to pay attention to the space weather, because the space weather drives the weather here on Earth. And if you have a good idea with what the space weather is doing, then you can pretty much predict what the weather is going to do, and plan for the next few weeks under those conditions, or months or years, you know. But the food riots, guys, you all need to be really concerned about the food riots, because they're coming. Look in Africa right now. There's like 1,000 people standing in line to get food in Africa. It's worse. It's going to be worse than back in the 80s. The Ethiopians. Remember the Ethiopians? It's going to be worse than that. There's going to be people just starving to death. I mean, we're not going to slowly starve them to death like we did the Ethiopians. We're going to starve them to death. I mean, cut this food supply off totally, you know. And it's going to be a terrible thing. And this is going to be global, because the shutdown was global. And the production line shutdowns were global, you know. And if we don't get back to production soon and find ways of speeding up how we breed chickens, because they had to cull a bunch of chickens. So the chickens you're going to get in the store aren't going to be big chickens from now on for a while. They're going to be small chickens, not very old, and they're going to be pretty small. And they'll be hurried through the production lines. You know, you're not going to be able to get big chickens or big turkeys anymore. And so they've had to cull a lot of animals during this, and it's real terrible. And the fruits and vegetables didn't get picked this week. They had to send the workers home, and there were no volunteers or anybody to come and pick the fruit and vegetables just rotting on the vine. You know, because most of that fruits and vegetables and stuff is hand picked, and without the workers, because we're seeing a spike in COVID in Hispanic workers right now. And who's to say that COVID wasn't racially modified, you know, genetically modified to attack other races? Because everybody knows that the rumor is that Bill Gates is a racist. So, and that he had to do with modifying this virus, or at least where it came from originally. You know, so on the heels of you know, and I like to point out a fact that George Floyd cured the coronavirus. George Floyd died and cured the coronavirus in a matter of days. Did what nobody could do, because everybody went out and didn't even care about it. They still had their masks on, but what's that going to do when you're rubbing up against 100,000 people? You know? What? People defecating and urinating in the streets. I mean, think, where did all those people go to the bathroom? Right there in the middle of everywhere. The cleanup from these protests is going to be unimaginable, on a scale of unimaginability. The mess these people have left behind. All because people were bored, and you had all these virtue signalers, these NPCs, these NPCs. That's all they are. Then you had Antifa is a terrorist organization, basically, and 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 Black Lives Matter is no different. I mean, to focus your grievances on one race is racist. That's like saying yellow lives matter or brown lives matter. It's racist to focus your attention, or white lives matter. It's racist. I hope I don't get another strike for even just talking about this, but I'm talking about the same things these other channels have been talking about, and they haven't gotten a strike. I think it was the title to my video, and I'll leave it linked in the description for you guys. And it's on my Bitchute. You can go watch it and see if I was being racist or not. See if I was doing hate speech. And I want you to tell me in the comments if I was doing hate speech. But I had a lot to get out today. I know it's running on 40 minutes here. But if you stuck with me, thank you very much for listening to me rant. I had a lot to get off my chest. I still have a lot to get off my chest. But two main things. Watch the solar cycle. Watch the solar activity. And stock up on supplies and stuff now while you can, before they do something like enact the Stafford Act or the food riots start. Because there will be food riots, because there will be a food shortage. And we're already seeing it now with higher prices at the store. Before you know it, there'll be no product in the store. If things don't get back on a roll quick, I mean, there's still going to be a period where there's nothing on the shelves, because we were shut down for 3 months. That lag hasn't caught up to us yet. And you got all these people with mortgage payments and rent due and everything. Now that we've opened back up, these landowners are going to want their money, and they're going to be kicking people out, evicting people. There's going to be whole shifts of movements of people from one side of the country to the other. Demographic change is fixing to happen. A massive migration. It's just a matter of time, guys. It's just a matter of time. And then we've got this tropical storm rearing up through the Gulf of Mexico. No telling how strong it's going to be. It could be another Katrina for all we know right now. We won't know until tomorrow night. So just keep your eye on that if you live in the South, down around Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, and Alabama, and Florida, Georgia, and up into Arkansas too. It looks like it's coming up into Arkansas and Tennessee. So we'll have tornadoes and stuff out of that. Right now it's beautiful outside. I mean, it's a beautiful day. It's a little humid and hot, but I'm sitting in the shade and the breeze, and enjoying a cigarette and my coffee, talking to you guys, talking at you guys. But anyway, leave a comment, Like, share, subscribe. And as always, people, peace out, MFers. Mr. Mission Control's out of here.